Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Friday again. Where are we? Oh, middle of November. This year is going past at a rate of knots, but hey ho. So, good morning and welcome if you are watching, which is a very strange thing to say because if you aren't watching, it wouldn't matter whether it's good morning or not to you. That doesn't make any sense. I promise I haven't been drinking. Good morning. If you are watching, do please pop a hello in the comments. We are on the new software now. Getting used to it. It's doing all the things that we want it to do, hopefully. I've had a few hiccups getting everyone signed in, but hopefully it's all working. Good morning, Ruby. Good morning, Virtual Creations. Good morning, Luna J. It's taking a few seconds to kick in, bless it. I know the feeling. Know the feeling very well. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Claire. Good morning. Got to remember to scroll up. This one needs scrolling up. There we go. It is autumnal. Very autumnal. Still a bit warm, or maybe that's the menopause flushes, I don't know. Lots and lots of fallen leaves. The trees, the ground covered in fallen leaves, all looking very autumnal at the moment. Good morning, Sue. And it's chilly.
No, it's not chilly, it's caramelised biscuit.
Oh, okay. I don't want a chilly cup of tea, do I really? That would not be nice. Oh, caramelised biscuit.
Yeah, it smells good.
Oh, it smells nice.
I've used it
Bet it doesn't taste of
I've used it as aftershave as
I
well.
bet it doesn't taste of caramelised biscuit. Good morning, Angela. Yeah, it is very autumnal. It's crisp. Haven't had a lot of rain. Garden is putting itself to bed slowly but surely. Still got some summer bedding flowering away quite happily, but a lot of the perennials are kind of putting themselves to bed, tucking themselves away. So there you go. That's the time of year, I guess. Good morning, Janet. Good morning. Gosh, it feels like it's only 2 minutes we've been in. It's been one of those weeks. It's been chaotic and twirly and just ridiculous. But then this whole year's been that, really. So, good morning, Kerry and Ebony from sunny Clonelly. It wasn't sunny when I went out earlier. No, it's a bit grey. It's a bit grey out there. But you never know. We might get some sun. Got a weird bit of hair sticking up. It's very strange from my perspective. I'm sitting here talking to myself. All I can see is a reflection of myself on the screen. It's very weird. Takes some getting used to. Good morning, Emma. You be careful, please, Emma. Look after yourself. Good morning, Xenia. Good morning. Yes, we're here. Eric's fast asleep in his armchair because, why wouldn't you be, really? He spends quite a lot of time under a blanket at this time of the year. Bless him. So this week's theme, as I found my book of shadows, my old book of shadows last week in the loft, this week's subject is Book of Shadows. Good morning, Karen. Good evening, Sephora. Yeah, my hair does grow fast. I'm lucky in one way. When I change styles, it grows out quite quickly if I get bored with it. But my fringe drive me nuts because that's always growing and I have to keep cutting myself. Despite the hairdresser telling me not to cut my fringe myself, I still do. My arm's buzzing. My watch is telling me to get up and get moving. It's rude. Good morning, Jane. So yes, this week, Book of Shadows. Book of Shadows, Grimoire, whatever you call it. Journal even, I guess. Good morning, Jackie. Do you have a Book of Shadows? Do you have a grimoire? Do you prefer calling it something specific, something else? do you have a physical Book of Shadows or do you have it online? Mine tends to be online now. This one is, I'm going back with this lever arch one. Ooh, probably, gosh, 20 odd years this one was made. 20 years ago, probably. It survived well. I went first with a lever arch because I think it's useful for moving stuff in and out. When I was first creating the Book of Shadows, I liked the idea that I could take stuff out, move stuff around, add stuff to it. Love the idea of one of the big leather-bound, handwritten grimoires, like Charmed. But A, my handwriting's not neat enough. B, I change, stuff changes, things change, and with this lever arch one, I moved stuff in and out and moved stuff around. You can't do that if you've written in a big book. But personal choice, I guess. There are lots of different ways of doing it. It worked for me, might not work for all. I do tend to keep it all online now. It's just the way it goes, I guess. The age, I don't know. Good morning, little Mr. Nemo. Janet, just starting to build my Book of Shadows. Nice. It's. I think it's a good thing to do. I don't necessarily use it very much anymore. The fact that this one has been in the loft for many years, but I do use my online Book of Shadows for reference quite often. So I do still use that. Good morning, Trudy. Trudy has sun. Yeah, it's a bit overcast here, but it's not raining, so it's all good. Let's get some of these up. Angela, dug out my first Book of Shadows from 1999, something but haven't been brave enough to read it. Was a jotter pad I covered in wallpaper. I'd painted and drawn decorations on. Nice. I think it's important to personalise it too. I do think it's important to personalise it. Zephora. Have a theory folder first and then once refined, try and do it proper and pretty. Okay, that's a nice way of doing it. Bit of preparation. Yep. Emma, I either call it a book of knowledge or a book of wisdom. That's essentially what it is, isn't it? What do you put in it, I guess, is the next question. Little Miss Nemo, I've got a lovely A4 leather bound. Yeah, this one is a sort of suede bound one. Handmade paper Book of Shadows. It's beautiful with a lapis lazuli stone on the front. Very nice. Still building it. I don't tend to use it. It's just a pretty thing. Yeah, there's that as well, isn't there? What sections do you put in it as well? Now, the first thing that I did with this, and I do advise, is doing a blessing. So I have got a Book of Shadows dedication there. I wrote a little ditty, like you do. Just to dedicate it, just to give the book a bit of a blessing, to give it a bit of intent. And I did handwrite that out and put it in the front. But what I did do with some of the pages, I'm trying to find some now, is I decorated them. So although I printed them out, I decorated them with pens and just line drawings and flowers, and I got some stencils. Funny, first page is about hedge witchcraft. Let's get that out. So let's get this out. Take the page out and I can show you. It's all a bit. So although I printed it off, I've drawn with sparkly pens to decorate the page. So although I printed it out on the computer, I personalised it by decorating the edges with flowers and whatever's relevant, really. I've got a few stencils, butterflies and dragonflies and things. That first section is Witchcraft Traditions. That's why Hedge Witch is in there. Jackie, our coven had its Book of Shadows and we had to copy it out and then add things as we went along the degrees. This one was created, my Book of Shadows was created when I started my Wiccan degrees. That's really what it was born out of. So an awful lot of it is quite focused on the Wiccan side of things, which I don't necessarily work with now. But I think I found it in the loft, and even though I hadn't used it for many, many years, I couldn't bring myself to chuck it away. I think it's important to keep it, and just it's a mark of my journey, really, I guess. Angela. Now I just have an exercise book which I have named Bog Witch Field Notes. Excellent. I like that. Good morning, Monique. Little Miss Nemo. Also got a small version for using as a prayer book along the lines of the Book of Common Prayer. Seeing as I am so used to that years as a church chorister, it's easy to fall in love with the and the sentence ends. So for moon is stunning tonight. It's like 40 watts out there tonight. Excellent. She is beautiful, definitely beautiful. All right, there's with the form of prayers. So I adapted the evening service and morning service, replacing certain words. I like it, love it. I like a good church service. Definitely love a good carol service. Zenny, I have a large folder book of shadows like you have, and used it for collecting printing and written information, charm style too. But later I got so many books on witchcraft, yep, where I get my references from. Didn't copy these in my book of shadows. I have these old informations in there, plus my birth chart and analysis. Yep, that's nice to keep in there. Initiation certificates and infos about Reiki and Angel. Yes, I have got a Reiki folder, but that's all separate. I am a Reiki master teacher, so that's quite a lot of bump. So that's all separate. Copied infos from my journals about spells and recipes that worked. Always good to keep. Now I get my references from other books and write my experiences and shamanic journey reports in my smaller journals I can carry with me. I do know people that don't have one big book of shadows, but have several journals, and each journal has the different subjects in. You're used to me saying this. It's got to work for you. It has. There are all the canticles, but just adapted. And why not for pagan use? Why not? Absolutely, why not? Angela, my first book was me going through Marion Green's A Witch Alone. My first witchcraft book, way before the internet, was Raven Silverwolf and To Ride a Silver Broomstick. And I do still have my copy. That's the one I used to work through. Janet, I'm using a 3-ring binder and place the papers in sheet covers. Nice. So it has to work for you. So what have we got? I've got Witchcraft Traditions. So I have got Hedge Witchcraft in here. I have I've got a bit about Sunteria, which is quite random but interesting. What else have we got here? Cottage Witchcraft, Green Witchcraft. And that's it. Not a lot else. Not a lot else there. I don't know why. One of those sections I didn't add much to, I guess. Good morning, Angela. Started with a scrapbook, the type with posts in it so you can add, move pages. Yep, but it became a bit of a faff, so I went over to a Lever Arch file. I do like the Lever Arch file. It's quite versatile. Sephora. Problem is, I want my Book of Shadows to look like it came off Linda's Farm and the monks did their best work. That would take some time. Doable, totally doable, but would take quite a lot of time. Ruby, I'm an introvert and don't feel comfortable writing everything down because the thought of others reading it gives me the jitters. Trying to work on that. I think your Book of Shadows is quite personal. I don't. Some covens will have a group Book of Shadows, which everyone adds to, as Jackie mentioned earlier. If you are a solitary, I think it's a very private thing, but no one has to know it's yours. Doesn't have to have your name on it. Doesn't have to have any identifiers on it. But again, you've got to be comfortable with that. Jane found a little hardback notebook in the loft recently. It's a dream journal dated 1997, hardly used, so I'm using it to collect dreams for my current homework. Meant to be, obviously. Emma. First book of shadow I had was a white slate one, and I decorated the pages too. Need to type up my work from my phone to my folder. Book of shadows. I have too much saved on the phone to lose it all. Yeah, be mindful that things can get lost in the ether. That's the only problem with keeping online. Always have a backup. What else have I got next? I have plants and trees. So I've got lots of tree correspondences, shell correspondences. What I also did with the dividers, so the next section is Wheel of the Year. I've got postcards. This one's from the Witchcraft Museum, Boscastle. And I've got postcards or images stuck on each page with the divider. Please bear in mind this is about 25 years old. So I have the Wheel of the Year. So I've got Samhain information, and I've drawn a picture of a black cat on it, because why wouldn't you? Just have all the information. For most of these were printed off from blogs and the internet. I haven't written them myself, although now I have an awful lot of information out there that I have written myself, so I could make it up from pieces that I've written. But most of these were interesting things that I found on the internet. And although I've printed them off and they are written by other people, each one has got the source on it, has got source references from where they came from. But I've got bits on each of the individual sabbats and all the correspondences and things. Bits and pieces, history of Litha. 'Twas the Night Before Yule poem. Yeah, that's an interesting section. I don't think I've got any dates on anything. Oh, they are. 2003, that one is. 2003, there we go. Yeah, 2003, 2004, 2005. It's positively vintage. Angela, I make books now. Interesting. So I'm considering binding my older books of shadows, those that I will no longer change things in. That way they would take up less room. Can reuse the folders and make them look pretty. Nice. Love the idea of making books. Brilliant. Good morning, Jalala. Miss Nemo. When I returned to pagan observance, my husband, who's not pagan, went to the witchy shop near his work and bought me a book of shadows with a resin cover. That got filled with all sorts of scribblings. Nice. Nice. Very nice, Prezi. Janet, this might be more organisational, but keep another book for supplies. I think there's different ways of working it, and as I say, I've seen and heard people do all sorts of things, writing in handwritten books, keeping the lever arch file, several ring binders, several different journals. Each journal has a different subject in. It has to work for you. And I would say this is 25 odd years old. And all of mine's online now in various sections, so it has to work. And like most things within our spiritual and religious journeys, they change over time. It's never a straight line. Good morning, David. Just having breakfast. Excellent. Right, Book of Shadows. My old ones are all old style exercise books. There's a fair few, and all of them are illegible. Yeah. May I use the iPad as a journey? Yes, but it's now mostly full of meditation. Got the odd spell ideas, observation, divinations, a mishmash. Yeah, I think it is. We move, don't we? Time moves onwards. This is my Book of Shadows here is quite antiquated now. Time moves on. My practice has moved on. The way that I record things has moved on. There's no right or wrong here. Angela, remember Raven Silver? Well, very nice lady. Very nice lady. Local library had a great selection of pagan books. I had to get books where I could when I first started, because it was way before internet. They were few and far between. But Silver Ravenwolf's book was the first one that kind of got me on the broomstick, basically. Good morning, Rebecca. Welcome. Keeping a deeply personal journal gives me the jitters. I'm going to try to move past this unease. It's entirely up to you. You have to feel comfortable doing it. I don't journal as such. This big old this big old book Shadows doesn't really have anything personal written in it. It's none of my thoughts. This is way before I started writing. So the Book of Shadows really is my collection of other people's information. So that it's not a daily journal or a diary of any kind. It is just a reference book, really. I guess it's become more personal now that I actually write. But this one is really just a reference book of other people's ideas. There's no right or wrong in there. Sephora. Notes in iPad is quite good for a digital Book of Shadows because it's so easy to cut and paste, create folders, and it's private. I have a bit of a hate relationship with anything that's made by Apple. I do have a tablet, but I don't have an iPad. I do have a Samsung. I don't have an iPhone. The amount of struggles we have with getting iPhone things to work with other systems put me off them for life. But yes, the tablet, the iPad works very well for notes and things. Trudy, my first book was Witch Alone. I have so much of what I've learned all jotted down in different notebooks. Quite scrappy, but I bought a lovely leather look book by Gwen Davis. Nice. Now is the time to put it all together, but we'll always keep the originals. Yeah. Good morning, Louise. Oh, I've got up on the screen. I can't see. Still getting used to the new software. Teacher training. Go you. I hope you have a productive day. I've managed to get that on the screen and now I can't get it off. That's interesting. Jane, I'm on the 8th volume of my Book of Shadows now. 7 of them are those nice leather jobbies, some with raggedy tea-colour pages. They're full of pages printed on the computer and stuck in because my writing is awful. That's what I did. Big problem with these books is I need to find some way of writing an index because I can't find anything. Yes. Yeah, I think that's where the lever arch comes into play. Because you can move stuff about and you can add an index in the front and you can sort things out. Got me on the broomstick, yeah. Angela, Spy, you've got pretty things on your birthday. The stand. I'm still not very sure what to do with it. I think it's going to be an altar. The things that are on it at the minute are little salt dough plaques that I made for all of the English deities. We ran a Goddesses of Ancient Britain course, and I made salt dough plaques for each one of them. So they're on there at the moment. That it needs something else. It's not quite right in the minute, but they're all on there. They're Coventina, Verbia, Andred. Brain's gone. There's the ancient British goddesses. They're all up there in a minute. It'll evolve. It will evolve. It is a grimoire different. No, same name, different name, same thing. Grimoire, Book of Shadows, pretty much the same thing. It is a book of magical information. Sephora. Evernote is the Windows version. I have used it on my phone. Apples are for eating. Yeah, I agree with you on that. David, just remember going through one of my early books when doing the oak lesson on the moon. I thought, no problem, I'll check my old book. And all it had was waxing moon, start things, full moon, do things, waning moon, tidy things. Wow, that is quite succinct. That is quite a good way of putting it. Good morning, Tony. Emma, how's the new software? Yes, it's good. We're getting used to it. We had a few hiccups when the girls and I all tried to get on at once because it threw us all out, but we are getting there. Seems to be working very well. Yes, thank you. Louise, can't believe I haven't written anything down for myself since the early 90s. No, I mean, I think the last one in here is 2009. That's slightly more modern. Do have bookmarks in all my books, making them twice as thick. Yes, a lot of my books have post-it notes in them. I find something interesting, I put a post-it note in it, yeah. Claire, write it in Latin, put a bit of maths, science, astrology, velvet cover, wax seal, like a bad art project. Yeah, but I did try to learn Latin and it's really hard. I did not get very far. Sephora. Now there's a good idea. Kitchen Witch lever arch files to buy for the Book of Shadows. Velvet or leather or dragon scales would be nice. Nice. Purchasable tab sheets, just an idea. Actually, we are in the process of adding printable worksheets to the lesson homeworks so that you can, for instance, in the moon phases, write all of your moon phase correspondences down and then print the sheet out to put in your Book of Shadows. So we're along those lines. We are adding those. Bridget, no, because they're not English. My ancient goddesses were really of England rather than Britain. Ariane Rod is Welsh. So yeah, they are all the really ancient ones. Let me go. No, I'll get them. Arnemetia, Rigatona, Ellen, Coventina, Nematona, Sabrina, the three mothers, Senua, Vabia, and Andred. And Sulis, of course, is downstairs because she's got her own altar. So all the ancient English ones, although Sabrina does cross counties. But yeah, it hasn't evolved any further than that. It will do. It will do. Jalala. My Book of Shadows is all over the place. I have a Facebook page so I can share useful posts. I've seen to it for my own reference as well as others. I have a blog which I use to log stuff when I feel like it. I also have a private Discord server just for me, which I use as a reference source by pasting stuff and hoarding pictures and links, etc. Might be terribly disparate, but for some people, both ways for me. I did have I still got a Facebook page for all my recipes. If I found a recipe, I would just share it to the Facebook page just as a place to keep the recipes there for me. I've got an app on my phone now that does a similar thing. And actually, I guess, really, my blog and these vlogs are my Book of Shadows of a sort. They are my journal. Me waffling about stuff. So, yeah. Good question, Sephora. What should you never put in a Book of Shadows? Good question. I don't have an answer at the minute. Any thoughts, anybody, on that? What should you never put in a Book of Shadows? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. If anyone's got any answers to that, pop it in the comments and we'll see where we go. David, Latin, just a thought. You could do that with digital books. You can write it in English and instantly translate. You can, but bear in mind that things like Google Translate don't always get the syntax and the grammar correct. So I think particularly if you are writing a spell, you want to make sure that you've actually got it all correct, because different incorrect grammar can mean interesting results, I think. Good morning, Tia. Jane, not everything in my Book of Shadows is magical. Some of the posts are life experience that have helped to shape me, and some are things I've had to write down to get them out of my system. You could call it shadow work. Used to print useful things from Pinterest, but they've stopped coming through since our PC was hacked a year ago, so less clutter. Some of the entries are quite mundane, but are important at the time. Not all chronological. There might be a reminiscence from way back shoehorned in, but I date everything, so it doesn't matter. Now, that's a far more personal Book of Shadows than my one is. Mine is really just a reference book, more like an encyclopedia, really. Some Book of Shadows, like Jane's, are more like personal journals. Again, it has to work for you. There's no right or wrong here. It's your personal Book of Shadows, your personal grimoire. You have to do. What should you never put in a Book of Shadows? Cheese? No, don't put your cheese in a Book of Shadows. Eat your cheese. I think I got the other one with the Celtic girls, but the English one rings a bell. Maybe I'm confused. Yes, we have done a Celtic goddess course. We've done a Celtic gods course, but we've also done goddesses of ancient Britain, really, which does cover other counties, but more specifically English. The English one is, yes, it's the only independent course. Sorry, I'm answering the question without even putting it up there. Yes, the Goddesses of Ancient Britain is still on the website available, but it's also available for students included. It's on the forum. Xenia, I'm also saving pics with inspirational quotes on my phone, like a temple to go. Nice idea. Very nice idea. Kerry, I have a few little book of shadows, but never written any of them. I have lots of bits of paper. One day I'll transfer them into my book of shadows. Gotta work. Xenia's walking the streets. Don't get arrested. So let's have a look at what section I've got in here. Moon phases. I have cycles of the moon. Oh, I wrote that one. So I have all the different phases of the moon and correspondences. Then I have chakras, which I'm always a bit unsure about things like chakras and auras. Technically not witchcraft, but spiritual. I used to work a lot with them, not so much anymore. Obviously, if I feel it, I will go with it and clear them out. But yeah, there's a little bit on chakras there. Animals, something I still work. Oh, look who's first. First page in my animal section. And it's my wild boar. Of course it is. He had to be there. And that's information that I've printed off. I've written it myself by the looks of it. I can't remember, it was a long time ago. And I've written a little poem for him as well. We do like wild boar. He's been with me for a very long time. What else have I got in there? Unicorns. I've worked with a unicorn on occasion. Got some stickers in here as well. The wolf. Not sure why wolf's in there. Never worked with wolf. The cow. I have worked with the cow. The horned cow. Dragonfly. Worked with dragonfly a lot. Pigeon. Pigeons with me a lot. Not the most intelligent of birds, bless them. Oh, now here's a personal bit. There's a record of, from 2010, I did a medicine wheel journey to find my spirit animal totems. Wild boar, unicorn, dragonfly, cow, pigeon. There you go. That's why they're in there. I don't remember that. It was a long while ago. I don't remember that. Bees. Yeah, I wrote the bees. What we got next? Crystals. Blue goldstone, moonstone, fluorite. Just information on them. Pictures of some of them. Their magical properties. Then I've got the elements. The directions they are. The correspondences they've got. What they relate to, our chemicals, symbol, animals, types of magic. Then I've got a bit on herbs, dandelions, sage. All information printed off with the correspondences and a bit of doodling. Like a bit of doodling. Right, sorry, let's go back over the comments. Jane, so glad we did Latin at school. One of my favourite subjects has come in so useful. There must be ways of learning that make it fun. We need a witchy Latin tutor. I have tried. It's hard. Little Miss Nemo did use the Farah and Farah Bible, so I suppose that functions as an extension to my own Book of Shadows. I think whatever references work, really. Tony, really enjoyed the Ancient Goddess course. Thank you. You made some beautiful goddesses to go along with it, as I recall. Ruby, just about to start Ellen in the Goddess course. Fascinating goddess. Heather works with her a lot. Emma, I have tea blends in mine. If I remember rightly, it's for various moon phases or spell work. Tea blends, very useful for all sorts of things. Miss Nemo, do you like Ellen? Personal goddess. Yeah, she is fascinating to work with. Good morning, Tess. We're talking about Book of Shadows today, Tess. Rebecca, do you have any store recommendations where to buy ephemera? Are you just throwing words at me that I have to think about how to pronounce for a grimoire? I would say, if you're starting out, make it yourself first. You don't have to spend lots of money. Literally, mine is a lever arch file and some of the card dividers. Start basic, because your journey will evolve, your book will evolve. When you've created something that you are certain of, then transfer it into something else if you want to. Something more expensive, leather bound, old pages, whatever you want. I think keep it basic, keep it simple to start with, and keep it cheap. Lever arch file, paper, dividers, and or even just a notepad. Keep it straightforward. You can download fancy pages from the internet. But again, I think it makes it more personal if you decorate the pages yourself. So the next section I've got to is Deity, and obviously the first one in there, because she has been with me for a very long time too, is the Kalak. So I've printed it off, and that's the book cover from Sarita's book on the Kalak. And I've just decorated it with, I had some templates and sparkly pens. To start with, I think that's all it needs to be. To finish with, that's all it needs to be. Don't spend lots of money until you're very certain of what you want, I think. Janet has printed out articles about climate change. Interesting. Ruby, do you record your workings and results? Yes, I haven't done so in this Book of Shadows. When I first started working with spells, I had a notebook that was just for spells. And I wrote down all of the details, what I used, what ingredients I used, the method, the timings, moon phases, time of the day, the wording that I used, and then I had a reference to know what worked and what didn't work. I could go back and put notes that this spell worked, that needs tweaking, this bit didn't work, next time I'd work it on a different moon phase, etc., etc. I think particularly with spells, it's really important to keep a record when you first start working with them, because that way you will learn what works, what doesn't work. I don't have that in my Book of Shadows. I had a separate book for that, but you could absolutely keep it all together with that. Okay, I'll go and get them. So I made these when we were putting together the online course, Goddesses of Ancient Britain. And one of the things to do was to make salt dough, not representations, but something as a focal point. Didn't have to be salt dough. Tony made some very lovely felted goddesses for it. But these are what I made from salt dough. So that's Coventina, Nematona. You can see the salt dough in the back lip. Arnemetia, Rigantona. There's the Ellen one with her antlers and hoof prints. Ignore my nail varnish, it needs taking off. Sabrina. Verbia. Had a very strong connection to her when we were working with it. Andred, or Andraste, Latinized version of it. Senua. And Matras, very strong connection with them, the three mothers of Cirencester. They are literally just discs of salt dough. And then I added extra bits on the top and painted it. Baked it and then painted it. So that's what they are. There you go. Good old salt dough. Reworking with animals. Personally like the idea of working with native animals, i.e. the ones that used to be in Britain, bears and wolves, but I'm more of a hedgehog person. Hedgehogs are native to the UK. Bless them. I do like hedgehogs. Yeah, I guess most of my animals are native. Wild boar, seagull, pigeon, magpie, a lot of birds in there. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's the same things as Deity. I do these days work with generally English deities, but I've worked with deities from all across the globe because I think it's important to be open to what or who comes your way. Tia, I have a book of shadows, but I do my writing directly in and make adjustments as I grow. This way I can see my growth. Nice. That's quite important, isn't it, I think? Idea came to me watching the movie Half-Blood Prince. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Fascinated how all the students with clean books struggled and the marked up went smoothly. Yeah, I think your journey's messy and edited, isn't it, as you go along? So that makes sense. Sephora, going to suggest a water feature or bird bath in that space in your garden. But then I remembered the pigeons and Eric. Yes, we have taken down the greenhouse in our garden, so we've got quite a bit of space to work with. We do have a bird bath. We already have a bird bath. It's too high for Eric to reach. We have thought about a water feature, but yeah, the thought, Eric would probably drink out of it. But the pigeons do decimate stuff, bless them. Karen, I've got a shelf of shadows, half of it dedicated to my books. Bless you. Thank you. I hope they're useful. Little Miss Nemo. I want to do Latin at my school, but they wouldn't let me due to my being in a low group for French. Stupid rule. I do wonder, is it one of those things where you are either good at languages or you're not? Is it one of those things? I'm not good at languages. I am still desperately trying to learn German, but it's very slow going. Things not to put in your book shadows. Never use a fried egg as a bookmark. That's very wise advice. Again, eat them. Sephora, which is the original scrapbookers. Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot of stuff out there now, isn't there? If you are into the whole scrapbooking thing, there's so much stuff out there. Stickers, and you can get all of the little brilliant pictures printed off to literally decorate your book shadows. And you can get Halloween, witchy, spooky type themed packs of all these stickers and pictures and things. Yeah, it's very, very useful to get and easy to get hold of. Jane, something needs changing in my book of shadows. I scribble it in the margins. I think scribbled margins look cool somehow. Well, it's editing, isn't it? Same as you do with your journey. Definitely. Good point. Yes, for materials, just an ordinary stationery supplier. Yes. Yep, absolutely. Emma, I remember drawing and colouring a house for a protection spell. Helped to give it more personalisation. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Tess. Yeah, good old salt dough. Can't go wrong with salt dough. Hello, are you going to write a book on two men in a greenhouse? It was definitely an adventure. Definitely an adventure. Xenia, I saw the three mothers of Cirencester in their museum. Stunning. It is. They are one of the deities, plural, that we do work with in the Ancient Goddesses of Britain course. Yeah, they are. I love them. Very much connected to them. Three Mothers of Cirencester was a plaque found at Cirencester in England, but the three mothers are right across Europe. Fascinating. David, things not to put in your book of shadows, fan fiction stories about Star Wars characters. Save that for online forums. Well, as far as I'm aware, being a Jedi is a recognised religion, isn't it? So, you have a Jedi book of shadows. Little Miss Nemo. Animals meant more the ones that are extinct in the UK. Okay, so we do still have, they are reintroducing things. I believe there are animals being reintroduced that used to live here. Hopefully not bears, because that's a little bit scary. You can find wolf sanctuaries, can't you? And there are wild boars in the wild in England. It's interesting. I think they're trying to bring the balance back to the wildlife. Jane, if you want to write something top secret in your book Shadows, use the witch's alphabet. Yes, that would work. Or Elder Foothark runes. The witch's alphabet takes ages to write. Yes, very hard for anyone to read without looking up every letter. Yes, that would work. Or invisible ink. Indeed. Spy stuff. Jane, I'm not a natural languages, but Latin struck a chord because of its structure. I wonder if we feel more at home with languages we've used in past lives. Could be. Could be a bit remembering rather than learning. That's how I feel about witchcraft. You remember it. Marginalia, such a good word, is as old as the written hills. All that monk doodling in illuminated manuscripts, it makes for engaged reading, I think, albeit distracted. I love it when there's things written in the margins, absolutely. There we go. Yoda is the king of intention. Deities from Star Wars characters, interesting. David, beavers have been reintroduced as well as boars. Yeah, I thought I'd read about the beavers. I know there's boars in the wild. Hoping to get to the Forest of Dean at some point to see them. Little Miss Nemo. Can be distracting as reading a dictionary, which I love doing, as you just get drawn down so many other paths. Yeah. There's a lot of old words we don't use anymore either, aren't there? A lot of words. The witch's alphabet is tricky. Yeah, I'd have to keep looking it up before writing it down. But if you want to write something in secret, that might be the way to go. That does not taste like caramelized biscuits. It tastes like grass. But there you go. Who else have got my deities? I've got a whole list of Celtic deities. One of the very, very first online courses I did when internet was, when my computer was the size of a house, was that asked me to pick a pantheon, which is quite difficult to do when you're just starting. And I picked the Celtic pantheon because I live in England. I worked with a few of the deities, not many. Lou, I've done a page on Lou. I did work with him for a bit. I worked with Rhiannon for a bit. Who else did I work with? Balanos, he's still with me. I was working with him back then. Nice. Manon MacLear. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that properly. Oh, lots of information on the Celtic deities. Now here's a section on prose. So I got quite a few poems. I've got the Charge of the Goddess and the Wiccan Reed and all that kind of stuff in there by the looks of it. Yep, Charge of the God as well. Interesting to work with. I have some meditations printed off. Candle magic that's got nothing in it. I have a candle magic section that has nothing in it. I have a spell section, witches bottles. Oh, now here we go. I have written out some spells. Let's show you these. Look. Right. Written in my very bad handwriting. I have protection sachets for a vehicle. Spell for strength, courage, and confidence. I've got a house cleansing spell from 2007. A house cleansing spell from 2006. Obviously a thing I did. Pick me up, banish negativity, candle magic spell. 7th of January 2007. I've got quite a few there. handwritten ones that I obviously created. We'll have to have a proper look through those. This is the first time I've opened it since taking it down from the loft. Rituals. Got some kitchen witch rituals there. Beltane. All sorts of things there. Oils and incenses. Oh, I have got magical alphabets with nothing in it. No Thebian alphabet for me. What are those? Oils and incenses. Got quite a lot on those. Days of the week. Correspondences for days of the week. Runes I've got in there. Never used. Oh, the witches' runes. I do read the witches' runes. I've got a bit on there about them. Scrying. Pendulum with nothing in it. Divination with nothing in it. Personal readings. Oh, I've put printouts of readings that people did for me. That's my star chart, my birth star chart. I'll have to go back and have a look at that one. Colour magic. Auras, which I don't work with any longer. Did then. Magical tools. And a section on dragons, obviously. And that's it. So there's quite a lot of stuff in there. Quite a bit that I don't really use anymore. Not an awful lot of personal stuff, but a lot of references. It is an encyclopedia, really, of magical stuff rather than anything else. And apparently some empty sections. I obviously decided that I might need that section and put a divider in and then never put anything with it. A Klingon Book of Shadows. Now that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Kapla! That's about the only Klingon I know. Oh, yes, the sound of the dot matrix printer. My print-offs aren't quite that old, but I do remember that. Emma. I remember creating a charge of the god for deaf people, which said somewhere in it, show me the signs instead of speak the words. Made more sense to me. Perfect. Karen, I've got a few small leather-covered books, mostly covering what I did on each of the Sabbats over the years and some spells. Mostly keep it online now. Finding Microsoft Word useful because I can index sections and subsections. That's what I use. Yep, that's what I use now. Miss Nemo. I suppose our student folders for Kitchen Witch lessons also serve as Book of Shadows extensions. Actually, I also have 3 LibreArch files for my Wiccan degrees. I have one file for each of my degrees that I did, and all of the lessons and all of my homeworks kept in them. They are back up in the loft. But yes, I would say so. Sephora. Starting to realise I have a Book of Shadows on my Pinterest page. Yes, I think Pinterest works very well for things like that. Jane. Early on in my witch life, I bought a black hardback A4 notebook with Book of Shadows embossed on the cover. I have subtitled it The Witch's Cone of Knowledge and pasted it all in the basic info. Will of the Ear, charts, alphabets, Wiccan read, rites of consecration, exorcism, etc., etc. It's a reference book, not a journal, which is pretty much what my Book of Shadows is. It is a reference book. No right or wrong, though. No right or wrong. I've always wanted to do water divining. Maybe not magical or spiritual, but I've always found it fascinating. It is very fascinating to do. Ruby, you could read your candle magic book and go back to fill your Book of Shadows in, yes. I think that's it. I think I obviously at some point I took it out for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I never put it in there. But a lot of my Book of Shadows now is in the form of me talking and in writing my own books and blogs, really. That has kind of become my own Book of Shadows. I do have the references online. If I was writing an article this morning for Fate and Fortune and I needed some references, I opened my Magical Herb book as a PDF on my computer and looked up the references that I need. But I do tend to work now more from intuition. If I'm making an incense or working a spell, I will literally just open my cupboard with the herbs and spices and magical bits in and take what I feel is the right thing to take. When I'm writing references and articles and things, I do tend to look up the references, but generally from my own books, because that's more personal, I guess. But it does have to work for you. And there are, from my experiences and from talking to you guys today, I think there are very personal ways of doing it. A Book of Shadows can be just a reference book, an encyclopedia, if you will. Or it could be a personal journal, or it could be a combination of the two. It has to work for you. It can be online, it can be printed out, it can be handwritten. There's no right or wrong here. It's your journey and it's your reference. It has got to work for you. I'm quite an organised person. I always have a lot going on, so I have to. So the lever arch with all of the dividers in it worked for me. I have notebooks. I have the blank notebooks that everyone buys with the intention of journaling, and then I never do. And I end up using them as notebooks for when I'm jotting down ideas. Quite a lot of my books I handwrite sections of on notepads, particularly if it's things like meditations or introductions or just things that go with the flow. And I often find that handwriting makes the words flow easier and quicker than it does when I'm typing. I can type. I found my certificates for typing in the loft as well from a million billion years ago. When I was at school, I did typing. I did office studies in typing, and then I went on and did my RSA and my Pitman's exams in typing. I'm not sure they even exist anymore. So I can type. But I find that handwriting things, particularly when I'm writing for the books, it does make it flow better for me. So I do have journals, but they are really with parts of books or ideas that I've got, and I need to get the idea out of my head. So I will jot those down in journals, not books of shadows, but journals. The problem then is knowing that I wrote that idea down, or knowing that I wrote that chapter down, and trying to remember which notebook I actually wrote it in. That's a bit of a problem. Jane, Kitchen Witch School course notes and corresponding homeworks have become an invaluable source of reference. Oh, I am really pleased, Jane. I'm glad about that. Lots of ring binders accumulating. Might move them to lever arch at some stage. Brilliant. I am pleased about that. That's why we are adding in some worksheets for the homeworks, so that you have more structure of reference, so that you can use them in your Book of Shadows. Little Miss Nemo did your RSA. Yeah, I don't know if they still do it. Sephora, thinking about witches past, wouldn't they think we have the most magical and mystical Book of Shadows with the magic of computers? Yes. Or maybe they think we've got the most boring ones because they're all typed. I don't know. Thinking back to ancestors illiterate, was it all oral stories and poems? I think specifically if you think about the Druids, that's why we don't have any records of the ancient Druid practices, because it was an oral tradition. The cunning folk, there's very little written down because, people didn't read or write, so that everything would have been passed down. And I think perhaps with the cunning folk, probably passed down physically. This is how we make a salve. This is how we make this. This is how we make that. It's sad how little is left, really. But we didn't write stuff down. Tess, love the idea of having a book just for spells. Do have countless notebooks. Also have themed notebooks. So I have John Winchester's replica copy of his journal. Brilliant. Perfect. I think is important. The spells in particular, I think, is important to record, so that you learn from experience with spells, and it's a good idea to keep a record of them. Angela, there's an article about writing cursive and why it was taught originally. It was really interesting. See if I can find it and put it in the Facebook group. Thank you. Yeah. Cursive writing these days is difficult for a lot of people to read. David, I dare not write in a book. My handwriting is something. Looks like words. You can make out some of the letters. Yes, I do find that when I am writing and I'm in the flow, the writing gets worse and worse and worse. Definitely. Yeah, Jane did RSA and Pitman too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was a teenager when I did those. Never understood why keyboard training wasn't the norm in all schools. After all, everyone uses the QWERTY keyboard on a daily basis now. Yes, but my son, for example, does a lot of computer work, gaming and such. A lot of the he does the phone with his thumbs. I cannot do with both hands. That doesn't work. I have to do like a demented woodpecker on the phone. He types really quickly, but he doesn't touch type. He doesn't use it's literally like that, but it's really quick. Yeah, different generations. Sephora, I feel ancient. I still use fountain pen. So do I, Sephora. I have a very beautiful fountain pen that I use a lot. Use it every day. Yeah. And if you think about fountain pens as well, they are much better than the disposable biros because they last forever and you just refill them. I do. My fountain pen has green ink in it at the moment as well. Little Miss Nemo just bought a fountain pen for my 8-year-old daughter. She loves it. Cool was her word. Excellent. I do. I love my fountain pens. Brilliant. So there you go. And our Book of Shadows from the ancient times. I am going to have a proper look through it. I'm not going to throw it away. Even though I don't use it anymore, I'm not going to throw it away. Because it's part of my journey. So there you go. No right or wrong. Make it as you wish. It's all yours. So thank you, everyone. Do join me on the 30th of November. I will be doing an online talk about hedge witchcraft and hedge riding to celebrate the release of my new book, Hedge Witch and the Art of Hedge Riding, which is released on the 1st of December. Pre-orders now available now. What else have we got? All the stuff is on the Kitchen Witch events pages and on my personal website as well. Monday the 18th, I will be joining the Magical Mondays team on their YouTube channel for a chat about hedge riding and all sorts of other things. What else have we got? We have, I'm doing a talk about the Kelech for the College of Psychic Studies on the 3rd of December. Details on their page. Have a look at the Raw Eden Apothecary page if you are local. Myself and Ness are doing readings for their Yule party, and myself, Ness and Heather are doing workshops there next year. Myself, Heather and Ness are doing a free 2-hour online workshop about full moon magic somewhere in December on the full moon. I want to say the 15th, something like that. Lots of stuff going on. Have a look at the events pages on my website and on the Kitchen Witch website for all of those things. Have a lovely week, everyone. And I will catch you all next time. Enjoy working with your Book of Shadows. Take care, everyone.